Well, greetings everyone, and welcome once again to another Wednesday night session of the Sports Crib. A lot of things to talk about tonight. I see Demetrius is here in the fold as well as Reggie. Uh, Demetrius, how are you doing this evening?
Mr. King, how are you? Good to see you again, Reggie.
Um,
How is
Happy to
everybody?
see you guys.
I saw the picture that you sent Bill and I, you and Don, partaking of, was that Texas barbecue?
Some barbecue down in San Antonio with Mr. Hayes, and he took me out to a barbecue joint. We had some barbecue, and then I went back to his house, which is a history museum like you guys wouldn't believe. It was unbelievable. Don's got some great stuff at his crib. I was like, wow, this the guy has been collecting history stuff for decades. It was pretty awesome. But yeah, good time with Don last night.
Yeah, good. So you're just getting back in the hood, huh?
No, now I'm in Dallas. I flew over from San Antonio to Dallas now, and it's
Man
a
on the
hundred.
move.
It's 101 in Dallas. After it was 109 in San Antonio. So I picked the wrong week to go to Texas, but that's all right. We're almost
Yeah,
done. We'll be back home soon.
yeah, you got to come out here in San Diego
Yeah,
with
yeah.
the weather. That's
You on
next.
you on the list? You on the list?
Yeah.
Actually,
Reggie, how
I'm
you
gonna hit
doing?
Reggie's. I'm gonna hit Reggie's area soon. I'm gonna
Yeah,
come down
man,
and
it's a
visit my
beautiful place to
son, and
be. Let me know. Let me
yeah,
know when
yeah.
you
I
make that trip.
I got a place in the city called Sewanee down there, so
Oh,
I'm gonna
okay.
look you up.
Yeah, no doubt.
Okay. How's the weather in your neck of the woods, Reggie?
Hot. It's hot, man. It's not like it's not like 100-degree hot, but it's hot. If you've ever been in Georgia, the humidity it's terrible.
Reggie doesn't care. They got rid of John Collins' contract. Reggie happy.
Man,
Reggie on cloud nine
it's
today.
it's it's been a long time coming, gentlemen. I'll tell you that.
He's
It's been
been
a long
waiting for
time
that.
coming.
Oh man. Well, while we're waiting for Don and Bill, uh, I did send Bill an invitation today. Hopefully, he'll be off the Xanax today, and he'll
Right.
be.
Right.
but
We'll get him for at least 2 hours before
uh, but guys, since Demetrius just leaped right into it, let's talk a little NBA here. And Reggie, it's been a while since we've heard the moves that your Pistons have been making. What's
No,
the
his
deal with
Hawks.
you?
His Hawks, you mean?
No, I
Or
meant
my Pistons. What were we
I,
talking about?
I meant your Pistons.
Oh, okay. All
Yeah,
right.
the wrong
Wait,
person,
yeah,
right
now you
team.
got whoa.
Yeah. Uh, so, what's going on with the new coach, the new contract? What's happening up there with your Pistons there, Demetrius?
Yeah, so we gave Monty Williams more money than anybody ever gave anybody to coach an NBA team, right?
Yeah.
But what people don't realize is we have a core of young talent, right? It's not going to take us long to jump in. We play in the Eastern Conference. Thank you, God. Right? But Cade Cunningham missed 70 games with an injury, right? Jaden Ivey had a solid year. Look out for Jalen Duran. We got a young core and we got money. We need to do something in the next 4 or 5 days to bring a grown man in the room, right? We need a couple of adults, right? We got trade pieces. People want Boyan because Boyan Bogdanovich can shoot the basketball. He can't do a whole lot of things in life, probably. One thing he does really well is shoot the basketball. So I think you'll probably see Boyan get moved. I don't think it'll be anything huge and exciting. I hope we take the money and talk to Cam Johnson and say, hey, let's do this. And then you're going to look at some organic growth. We're going to make an incremental growth this year, and then next year I'm going to be on a whole different level in terms of how I talk. I'm going to talk about the Pistons next year, like I'm going to talk about the Lions this year. But right, held to being a thing. We got one of the Thompson twins at 5, and we got a pretty good defender named Sasser. In case you guys don't know who Marcus Sasser is, he could defend. So we got better defensively. Cam Johnson would give us another wing scorer and round us out. And then I think we got some growing to do. But we need some grown men in that room. Monty Williams is a good coach. Everybody knows it. Everybody agrees with it. That's why Tom Gores went in his pocket and essentially said, what do you need? You need special planes. You need special medical help for your wife. Whatever you need, I need you to coach my basketball team. So I'm proud of the owner for getting it done. Um, I think Monty Williams is a great fit. the team, without getting all long-winded, although it might be too late, they feel a lot like the Phoenix team. I feel like Cade Cunningham can be a Devin Booker type if he wants. Jaden Ivey can be something like a Mikal Bridges, which he had, and Jalen Duren could be DeAndre Ayton. You saw those guys kind of grow under Monty. We can debate DeAndre Ayton, I guess, but they grew under Monty, and I hope that's what we see from those three guys in particular. Sir Thompson will be a bonus. Anything we get from Sasser is great. We still got a really good guy named Isaiah Stewart, who I don't think he's hit his ceiling yet. I like where we are, but we're still 2 years away from me really, really talking trash. I can't. I'm gonna be a Hawks fan for right now, so you can call me a Hawks fan for right now.
Reggie, that brings us to your conversation. John Collins has been acquired by the Jazz in trade talks with you guys at the Hawks. The Hawks got Rudy Gay and some draft picks. Reggie,
I dare you to talk up Rudy Gay. I dare you to tell us how great Rudy Gay is.
I can't lie to the people here, man. I'm not gonna lie to the people here, man. For one, I had to look up this day he was still playing in the league.
Right? Who knew he was still playing?
I had to look up and see he was still playing. And basically, this is just a salary dump. This is the end of an era here in the A. You know, every year we have an annual. Is John Collins going to get traded? Conversation, and it's been happening for the last 3 to 4 years. Solid. Is he going to get traded? And this is before he ever got paid, guys. Like, you know, it took us a while to even pay him. Finally, we did. But I don't know if there's much to celebrate here until I can see what we're going to do with the money that we save by cutting him, you know? Yeah. So, I mean, the DeJounte situation still hasn't been worked out. We are in the luxury tax with nothing to show for it before we traded John Collins. So until I see what we're going to do with that money, it's going to be hard for me to get excited. No knock on Rudy Gay, but I'm just not going to be super excited.
You had a drink when John Collins got on the plane and left town, right?
Well, I had a drink when they paid him. Demetrius, like I couldn't believe that. Like I couldn't. I mean, when you hesitate to pay a player, it's usually for a reason. Right. And we've seen this happen, whether it's in football with the Zeke Elliott situation. You see this happen time and time again, where somebody does it, where teams like, should I pay him? Yeah. They paid a person and end up trying to find a way to get rid of them a year or two down the line. So that's just the same situation here with JC. And I'm just interested to see what we're going to do with the money that we've kind of saved by cutting it.
Hello, Bill. How are you doing this evening?
Mr. Very, very well. Good to be here.
Oh, hey, no feedback, nothing. Sounds good tonight, Bill. What are we going to do with your Bulls?
You said Bulls?
Yes.
Bill don't care about the Bulls.
I'm not saying I don't care about the Bulls. They were at one point. I mean, I remember the good old days, and then we all got excited when Derrick Rose, obviously a kid who grew up on the southwest side of the city, was in the process of putting the team on his back, as they say, and. Obviously things happened, and I thought
he had scoliosis, right?
Well, what happened to him was a bunch of things, but it was mostly that meniscus tear that never healed.
Yeah,
and I mean, I joked about this. I said, there's 3 or 4 offensive guards playing every Sunday with the exact same injury, and I'm not wrong. I mean, but of course they don't have to do the same kind of things that Derrick Rose is asked to do. But they do fight 600 pounds a dude on a regular basis.
Right.
Basketball players are a different breed from football players, obviously. And then I got really excited about Jimmy Butler, who emerged, right, from sort of the tail end of the Derrick Rose version of the team. And I was like, yes, we can build around Jimmy Butler. Well, that didn't work out. So I kind of tried to talk myself in to the Zach LaVine thing. I never completely bought into the Zach LaVine thing. Admittedly, he turned out to be better than I thought he would. A much better shooter than I thought he'd ever become. Because for those who remember, early in his career, he could not shoot a lick. And some people said, "Oh yeah, well Jordan wasn't really a jump shooter." It's a little different. I mean, Jordan had fundamentals of being a scorer even before his jump shot became a great jumper, you could see that the foundation was there. And Zach LaVine, to his credit, went from having even kind of a wobbly, shaky foundation as a shooter to becoming a solid, he could score. But I kept noticing two things. Either they were a defensive team or thought they were a defensive team that would get sort of sluggish on offense or vice versa. They never seemed to have both. And obviously, when the Bulls were a dynasty, they had both. They had, in fact, their two best offensive players were also the two best defensive players, which is really nice if you can pull that off. And so now we come to the most recent version of the Bulls. And they're essentially they're not in a full rebuild. Well, sort of. They seem to not know how to do a full rebuild. They're not doing the trust the process thing, which I guess is out of vogue now. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know how that works. But they seem no one seems to be publicly proclaiming that anymore. I'll put it that way.
You can't really do that, though. Yeah, I mean, publicly, like you said, you can't do that.
Yeah, you can't publicly. And now I guess they're building around Nikola Vucevic.
I think Mark DeRozan is still the best player on that team.
Yeah, right. That's true.
But I mean, I think it's telling that he asked you about today's Bulls, and you talked about Michael Jordan, Derrick Rose, right? And even Zach LaVine, right? You didn't Derrick Jones or Vucevic or even they got the corpse of Andre Drummond wearing a jersey over there.
Oh yeah.
Right. You went to Jordan and Derrick Rose. That was the
glory
answer.
Days, man.
Right. That
Glory
was his
days.
answer.
Yes.
Wrapped in a nice little package for you.
If you're telling me that I'm supposed to, and I like DeMar DeRozan. First of all, he's a fantastic number 2, right? Like if they had a number 1, I'd be super. Once again, if they bring back Jimmy Butler, which they can't do, but I mean, if somehow Jimmy Butler were the number 1, or Derrick Rose was somehow, through cyber genetics or whatever, was restored to health or and youth, but they don't have that. Obviously, time travel not a thing yet in the NBA. So you're telling me that we're, as you said, DeMar DeRozan, who I love as a complementary piece, right? He's essentially not upper middle class. He's like a middle working class. He's like a working class. He's like a plumber / road manager for a fairly successful band version of Paul George, right? Like he's almost Paul George. And so when you're almost Paul George and you're the number 1 option, and then you have Nikola who's the number 2 option when he really should be like fighting for 3-4, I get a little queasy, I guess is the word I'm looking for. And who's the lockdown, devastatingly good defender on the team? Who's the guy that just shuts down other teams' best players, right? Who's that guy?
No, and there's the answer to your question. They have talented players. Lonzo Ball's a good basketball player. Yep. Patrick Beverly's not a nice human being, but he can do some things on the basketball court.
Some things,
right?
Yeah.
I don't know if I agree with you on DeMar DeRozan. I think I like DeMar DeRozan more than you, but I could have that conversation with you, and that's fine. And like I said, Derrick Jones Jr., they have some players on that team. I think what Bill said in a roundabout way is they don't really have an identity yet. They do not. They do not, right? They don't have an identity. And that's what their work is now. Who are you guys? A collection of pretty good players? Because like I said,
good players.
The guys I named are pretty good players.
All of them are pretty good.
Who are you? Yeah, that's where the Bulls are.
They all cashing pretty good paychecks too.
Yes,
they are.
But let's talk about Dame and Portland. Of course, we've all heard all the rumors. Portland here, Portland says they're going to work with Dame and put pieces around him, and Miami says they're staying locked and waiting until Portland just decides to get rid of him. But Reggie, starting with you, what do you think is going to be the way that Portland goes here? Do you think that we've seen our last season with Dame in Portland? Do you think Portland stays in, now that they've got Scoop, but I mean, they've got a plethora of point guards. That's not their problem. What do you think is going to happen here with Dame?
I think that both parties are scared to file the divorce papers, is what I think. I think that they I mean, this is obviously when you say stuff like I think we can win, and you look at the team as Portland's presently constructed, I don't know where the win, like that's an exciting league pass team, like my partner loves to say. It's an exciting team to watch with the young Shaden Sharp, Scoot Anderson, Anthony Simons. That's an exciting team to watch. Win a chip though, like I feel like he's further away now than he was before, and on some of his other teams that he played on. So I don't know if this is just lip service and them not wanting to go, neither one wanting to go to the fan base and say they're the one that got rid of the other. But at the end of the day, I mean, I would have loved Lillard in Miami. I just want to see him go to contender so we can really get a chance to see. Let's get a chance to see. He's already top 75. Let's get a chance to really see him compete. If I'm Portland, and when I saw them take Scoot Henderson, I thought his days were numbered right then. As soon as I saw them take Scoot Henderson, I'm like, well, this is over for Lillard at some point here. So I think we're just going to wait to see. I'm not sure if they're going to the season like this. I hear a lot of people say they still think he's going to get traded before the season happens. But it's hard, guys, to imagine getting past the trade deadline and Damian Lillard still on the Portland Trailblazers. It's difficult to imagine that.
Yep.
But guys, Portland's definitely not going to trade him within the West. And I don't see a lot of, other than Miami, I don't see a lot of teams that can actually put together a package that's going to satisfy that salary cap.
That's why he's going to get traded to Miami, right? and I think Reggie nailed it right off the top. The only reason this is complicated is Dame actually loves Portland. He loves the city of Portland. He loves the fans. There is no world where Dame's going to come out in public and say, trade me, right? Now, this is easy. In the real world, if they start trade rumors about you and you don't want to be traded, you immediately go, I don't want to be traded. I love Portland. I want to stay here. And if you're the team, you come out and emphatically say, there's no world in which we trade Damian Lillard. This is done. We're not even talking about it on the crib. Reggie nailed it. Nobody wants to be the one that files. That's what it is. I am, like he said, I'm a person who says, if you're Portland, you look at your roster and you see Shade Sharp and you see Scoot and you see the young talents you have this, much as you love them, you have an asset. I hate to go business meeting on you, but every time something big happens, there was a meeting. 2 days, 2 weeks, 2 months before, there was a meeting. They need to have that meeting and say, we love Dame. We can come out and say that. But Miami, if you give us this, we'll sit down, respectfully talk to Dame. Dame, you cool with going to Miami? Yep. Gives me a chance to do what I want to do. We get back a package that helps us be sustainably competitive in the West, because that's what matters. You're in the West. You need more talent. You're not good enough right now. You're not good enough right now. And Dame knows that, and the ownership knows that. So they just need a really, really palatable way to present it to their fan base, right? Hey, amicable. That's the word you want. Amicable. We are in agreement, right? Miami puts the package together. Everybody's smiling. They shake hands. They put Dame's name in the ring of honor or name a street after him, whatever the hell you got to do, right? Do that stuff. And I believe come start of the season, Dame's a Miami Heat. If that's the right way to say it. A heater? A heat.
A hot.
Right. He's something, right? He's wearing a Miami Vice uniform.
Bill, what do you think there is Bill due? I mean, is Dame due to be in a Miami Heat uniform next year? Is it cheaper to keep him? I mean,
Well, I think you're quoting the wrong song. I'm going to instead quote noted basketball analyst, ordained minister, gospel and R&B artist Al Green. Don't look so sad. I know it's over, but life goes on, and this world keeps on turning. Yeah, let's just be glad we have this time together. There's no need to watch the bridges that we're burning. Lay your head on my shoulder.
The sports crib. Look at this. The sports crib.
Bring your warm and tender body close to mine. So, as was very pointed out beautifully, right? There's a point in a relationship where they say you've moved into mature love, right? Sure, the passion doesn't burn as hot, but you're comfortable. You know who's going to wash the dishes on what days. You know who's going to fold the laundry. You know who likes hospital corners and how they like them made. When it comes time to realize that the fire has truly burned out and it is time to move on, it is very difficult when you are comfortable, right? You are used to a certain routine and they know how to make French toast just the way you like it. But there's nothing else there, right? The flame, the spark, all that's gone. Dame Lillard is a dude who is, the term is used all too often, but it really fits here. Loyal to a fault. We've heard that said before, but it's usually not true. This time it is. He is loyal to a fault. This team that drafted him. He was a guy that some people didn't even have a first-round grade on coming out, which is nuts, coming out of Weber State. He is a guy that is sort of seen as an almost sort of self-made kind of player, right? There was a little bit of hype on him coming out of school, but not a lot. He wasn't. Very few thought he was a superstar, even though he was an unstoppable player practically in college. And James, you said they have a lot of point guards, or you said that's not their problem. No, that is their problem. They've had at least one, maybe two too many point guards. That is indeed the problem, actually. You can only tie up so much of your team in one position, unless you're going to run a four point guard offense, which I guess you could. I don't recommend it. So yes, it has come a time to remember the good times, right? It's come that time to hear the whisper of the raindrops blowing softly against my window. That is the time that it's come. And of course, Portland has plenty of raindrops and windows. So you can make believe one more time for the good times, but it would be wisest at this point, to allow, I think I'm quoting Gwyneth Paltrow, a conscious uncoupling of their relationship.
Reggie, do you expect CP3 and Curry to thrive together? Paul says he's excited to play alongside Steph.
I want to like this. I wanted to like this a lot. But I just have a very hard time, man. I have a very hard time because the Warriors, it has been said ad nauseum, like in all sports shows that I've listened to, have gotten smaller and slower and older. Smaller, slower, and older. That may be a recipe for success somewhere else outside of athletics, any kind of athletic situation. But I think that you can use his acumen because that's something that never ages. So you can use his basketball IQ and you can try to leverage that. But some people are saying he have to come off the bench. I don't know if he's ever come off the bench before, but some people are saying that's where they feel like he would have to thrive in that second unit while Steph is off the court, because that's where they seem to have suffered last year, is being abysmal whenever he had to sit down. So I want to believe you just throw CP3 because I want CP3 to get a chip. I'm a guy that chases the chip wherever CP3 goes. I was rooting for Phoenix when he was in Phoenix. I'm going to root for him no matter where he lands. I'm going to root for him to get a chip. So I'm going to want him to get a chip there. But it's just, guys, it's hard to believe that CP3 is like the answer to what ails you. You know what I mean? In the West, like you get CP3 and now you're competing with Denver. I don't see that personally.
What about you, Bill?
Okay, first, how many games is he going to play? That's my first question. And then how many minutes can he play in the games that he plays? So I've been a fan of Chris Paul since he was, I don't know, almost 17, 18. I mean, I saw him in the McDonald's All-American game when he was 18 at the most. Followed him all throughout his time at Wake Forest. I love how much he's committed to supporting, even though he went to Wake Forest, he's committed to supporting historically Black colleges and universities. He's a tremendous human being. And he was, at one time, probably the best at one point, maybe the best all-around point guard in basketball. But that was a while back. And, I mean, has someone injecting him with something different now? I mean, has he got, like, some sort of, like, I don't know, monkey adrenal glands or whatever? Like, what is going to happen that's going to make him different from the guy we've seen the past couple of seasons, who looked more and more like a shadow of his former self? And now he's not getting any younger, as was pointed out by by Mr. Reggie Johnson. He's getting older, and I mean, he may not be literally shrinking, but figuratively he shrunk. So I remember a couple of years ago, you asked me about what I thought about the Lakers. They decided the oldest team basketball decided to get older. I don't usually like old teams getting older. I rarely say, oh, that's exactly the right move. I really feel like there's a team where he could have gone and really helped, but I don't know if this is that team. I feel like, he makes more sense to Utah, or I don't know. I'm trying to think of like a team that really needs like a guiding hand. Am I wrong? Did Golden State not have a bunch of stable veterans who know how to play basketball already? Am I
a team like OKC would have made much more sense with a young squad like that, where you just want to drop him in into a team with young skill players or something like that.
Yeah, I could have sworn there were a lot of pretty basketball savvy dudes already played for Golden State the last I checked. I thought their issue was length and foot speed. I could have sworn that was the real problem, right? Wasn't that it?
Chris Paul helps that out quite a bit, doesn't he?
No, that's what I'm saying. Was Muggsy Bogues not available? What are we doing?
You know what this really is though. So like I could do my whole thing on his style. Chris Paul is a pick and roll, dribble drive, kind of ball dominant, find the shooter point guard. That's the nonsense part. No, that's the real part. This is what happened. I talked earlier about the meeting. This was the meeting. Hey, Mike Dunleavy Jr., congratulations. You the new GM of the Golden State Warriors. Hey, what you gonna do? Hey, I need 3 ways to unload Jordan Poole's contract by tomorrow. That's what I want. I want 3 proposals on my desk where I can get 4 years, $128 million off my books. Well, actually, it will only be 3 years left, but $32 million a year, I need it off my books. Y'all go out and find me the best 3 options. And when they came back to him, there wasn't that many. And there probably was only one. And he sat down, ate a bowl of Fruity Pebbles, and said, all right, I'll take Chris Paul. If that's what I got to do, because once Draymond stole on him, he got to go. Reggie, don't he got to go?
Yeah,
he can't still be in my locker room. You got stolen on national TV. Everybody saw it. The dynamics in that room changed the day Draymond punched that dude in the face, right? And so at that point, you have to move him. But the problem is everybody else know you got to move him too, right? So you were never going to get value for him. But the idea of we can't have this player who will never reach his full potential in this environment ever again, as long as Draymond's on this team, and we're paying him $32 million. So I need to get that $32 million off my books because this guy needs a new environment. We need to get him out of here. It's best for everyone, but it comes at a price because the thing about the NBA collective bargaining agreement is you got to stay within, I want to say 10% once the players are of a certain number of years of service, salary-wise. So they had to look around the league, find somebody who made 30 to 35 million a year and make the trade, right? And if a guy in this league today makes 30 million a year, he's either really good or he's really old, right? That's it.
Yeah.
You're not getting a really good guy because we all know his value. You got to get Jordan Poole out of there. So to me, this was so much more about let's get Jordan Poole out of this room than it was, hey, we need Chris. Everybody know Chris Paul doesn't fit. They move it out the basketball they run. Everybody knows Chris Paul doesn't fit Golden State. This was never about that. That meeting was about getting Jordan Poole out of that room. That's what I think.
Yeah.
There's my man sitting in the museum. Everybody's got to go to Bulverde, Verde, Texas, and see the museum. It's unreal. I'm telling you guys, it is next level.
How you doing tonight, Don?
I'm doing great. How y'all guys doing?
Saw the picture of you and Demetrius enjoying some Texas barbecue there.
There we go.
We did.
Yeah, it was a good time.
Can't go wrong at Cooper's.
Yeah. Good stuff. Had some blackberry cobbler and some bluebell ice cream. It was all good.
Nice plug there. Nice little plug.
Yeah.
We'll hit Clear Springs Cafe for the catfish next time.
Nice.
All right, well, Demetrius, let's talk about the Suns a little bit here. The Suns, they had their big 3, but they don't have any depth. Monday, they're interviewing Jabari Parker and Stanley Johnson. Stanley, who the hell is Stanley?
So I can tell you exactly who Stanley Johnson is. Stanley Johnson is the guy that my Detroit Pistons drafted. Instead of a dude named Devin Booker, who was still on the board, by the way. I am not over it yet. It was 2015, and they took Stanley Johnson, and Devin Booker was available. Now, Stanley Johnson at the time came out of Arizona, if I'm not mistaken, was viewed body, grown man body, could defend, right? And the bigger Van Gundy, what's his name? Stan Van Gundy was running our organization then, and he loved him, right? Didn't even think about Devin Booker. Now, Jabari, we know, Chicago kid, again, NBA body, grown man, had skills. I think his issue might have been more injuries. I think he got hurt early in his career and just never got on track. But when you're Phoenix and you have 4 massive contracts eating up that much of your salary cap, you don't have many options to fill out your roster. One of them is, mid-level exception type dudes. And that's what these guys are. These are guys who will play for league minimum or mid-level exceptions, once had talent, maybe still have something to contribute, but these guys don't have to give you big minutes. So you can get away with this. The other way is to, like I said, I think last week or 2 weeks ago, just trade DeAndre Ayton, right? And get yourself some draft capital and fill out your roster with some young talent. That's what they need to do. Which I think that's what they're going to do. I think his contract, he can be traded now. And Ayton is valuable to a lot of teams. You can get something for DeAndre Ayton. He's young and he can do some things. So I think, those guys are options. The smarter, better, more likely option is you trade DeAndre Ayton for a package of a mix of draft capital and a couple young players to fill out your roster.
What do you think, Reggie?
Couldn't agree more. I mean, it's hard to get worked up for a team that's interviewing Jabari Parker and Stanley Johnson right now, or working them out. Well, when you hear that, then you don't think title contender when you hear that in the same sentence. And I think that they had a lack of depth last year, and they have a lack of depth again now with, I think, less money and less flexibility. Yeah. So I think if they don't move DeAndre Ayton, it's going to be hard to see them coming out the West because they have not addressed the issues that they had last year. They're going to go into the season with the exact same issues. So I think they're going to have to trade him. From what I'm hearing, like they're contemplating keeping him. I'm not sure why, but Frank Vogel had said some nice things about him. So maybe they can turn that around. But you're going to need more players, and you can get through the season. Maybe you can hobble into the playoffs, but when you get into the playoffs, you're going to be exposed for that lack of depth.
Yeah. Bill, can the 76ers win the East if the beard stays?
No. But before we move on, there's this meme where it's they show Adam Silver. It's learn Chinese, buddy. I think they might need to send some people over. We were just talking about the Suns over to the Shanghai Sharks or whatever, and some other places and say, learn English, buddy, because there's some guys, that Michael Beasley is looking pretty good. I saw him, hooping over in China. I mean, it might be time to maybe reach out to some of those guys playing overseas. They can
Dwight Howard is still over in China. I mean,
and killing it. He's killing it. Have you seen his numbers? He's knocking down threes. He's swatting shots.
Guys, they can't defend. They can't. They're going to score 130 a night. They got Kevin Durant, Devin Booker, and Bradley Beal. They need defense. That's what they need. And I have not heard a name yet. Michael strikes me as a weird defender.
Those guys can play defense. Michael Beasley and Dwight Howard. Learn English, buddy.
Learn English.
Oh.
All right, the Sixers and Harden. I want to hear what you think about this, by the way.
I mean,
no.
Every time you ask me about a team that's built around Mr. Harden, I usually have pretty much the same answer. And you've asked me this going back years now. And I've not moved off my square. I will tell you, until something happens that compels me to change my answer, any team that is Harden-centric will get knocked out in the playoffs. I don't think that will ever change. I've been very – I think you asked me the first time about 7 years ago, James, and I haven't moved off my answer.
Wow. Okay.
Demetrius, do you agree?
Mostly agree. Here's the thing: we don't need him to. He can't be Houston, right? He can't be Houston James Harden. He can't be that ball dominant. It just won't work. I think the key for them, there's two keys. They have the same opportunity that Phoenix has. They have a guy in Tobias Harris who is good enough that he can bring back value. His contract is big enough that it will help you get healthy. But specifically to James Harden, he simply has to alter his game so they can unlock Tyrese Maxey. That's the key to that team. The elevation of Tyrese Maxey's role requires James Harden to be less Houston ball dominant James Harden and something else. That there are nights we're going to need that guy. So less Beard, more something else, right? Which to Bill's point, I've never seen any evidence he can do that, right? So if the question is, can they do it with the beard? An altered beard, a trimmed, shaved, sculpted beard, not that wild bullshit he's rocking now? Maybe, right? But it's really about Tyrese Maxey. Tobias Harris is a phenomenal asset that they're not utilizing. He's fourth option on that team when he could be a number 2 on something. Now, he used to be a Piston, and I really liked him. I hated that they moved him. I'm a Tobias Harris guy. I'll admit that. So I'm a little bit jaded. But I think
we'd love to have him in Chicago.
Right. I think Tobias Harris can make a lot of teams better. And if Philly utilizes that, maximizes that asset, and Tyrese Maxey is the key, though. Tyrese Maxey is a phenomenal player. We haven't seen his best work yet, largely because he's blocked, for lack of a better term, by James Harden's, ball dominance. So, an altered beard, the answer is yes. But if he stays who he is, Bill's right. There's no evidence he's going to ever get too far in the playoffs.
What's your thoughts, Reggie?
I have to concur. I mean, there's no evidence that the 76ers can do it without him. They haven't presented any evidence, so there's no evidence they can do it with him. There's just no evidence that they're across the board here of any success past the second round, and I just need to see it at this point.
Yeah.
Well, okay, we'll see. Right now, he's still trying to decide whether or not he wants to exercise that, was it $35 million option or whatever it is.
Crazy numbers, man. We sit on the phone and we talk about these numbers, and they're like, "Oh my god!" I just need one year's checks. That's me for life. One of James Harden's game checks could really help me out. It's like, oh my god.
The tax would. I would settle for the tax. Would be
the taxes on a game check wouldn't be bad.
Don, LSU vacated 37 wins. And that's going to knock Les Miles out of the Hall of Fame eligibility. What did you think when you heard that, Don?
Well, let me just say this. Whenever the NCAA goes back and retroactively, takes away wins from many, many years, no one really thinks about it. We don't say, well, Penn State sucks. I mean, they lost all those games under Joe Paterno. No, they won a lot of games. So I always think it's funny how they, vacate these victories, and all of a sudden, their head coach is no longer eligible for the Hall of Fame. I don't know if he was a Hall of Fame coach in the first place. I mean, he got fired the last 2 places he was at. So I don't know if he was head there in the first place, but I just hate it when somebody comes in and says we'll take away these victories, because we all know that we watch football games. 10 years later, we know who won, who lost on the field.
Yep.
I think if you want to punish a program, you take away their scholarships, take away their postseason appearances. No bowl games, no playoffs. If you want to punish this program, that's how you do it. Ask SMU.
Yeah.
What do you think, Demetrius?
I think Don makes a great point. You can vacate wins. So you vacate 37 wins. His percentage drops down below 600, which is the threshold. So it's an easy fix. He can get a job at some school in a weak conference for 2 years, drop 7, 8 wins a year, tackle another 15 wins, and he's back over 600. To Don's point, I don't know if he should go anyway, because I'm not sure he's a good human being. And I think he went to Michigan, so I love saying that. But, this is about an offensive lineman whose dad took some money and his mom got a job from a booster or something back in 12, 13, 14, 10, 12 years ago, or 9, 10 years ago. You're thinking, to Don's point, the fans remember their wins. That doesn't change anything. So you can vacate him and say he can't go to the Hall of Fame. I don't know if he was going anyway. And as a Michigan State fan, I don't know that I give a damn. Only reason I know about this is because I wanted to sound educated on the SPORTSKRIB. Because I looked this up, because I really didn't give a damn. I wouldn't have known anything. I had to look this one up, and I don't mind admitting it, because I didn't want to sound like a fool, right? I don't care if Les Miles goes to the Hall of Fame, and nobody on this podcast cares, including Don. Reggie's an SEC guy. He doesn't give a damn about Les Miles.
Yeah, absolutely not.
I guess it's interesting to somebody, just not any of us. Although, Bill, what's his middle name? Do you know? No, I'm just kidding. Let's kidding.
I
have
do.
no idea. You really?
I do. If that's an actual question, I was sort of just messing around.
I'm just gonna have fun with it. See if you could drop his full name, middle included. Just for Don and I talked about how much we liked that last night. You just randomly dropped some guy's middle name.
My favorite is his father's name. His father's name is actually Bubba. Bubba Miles is his dad.
Of course, his dad's
That's
name.
The one. You got another.
I got his
That's
dad's
nice
name.
right there,
That's
man.
classic Bill right there. That's Bubba. That's great. All right, sorry, James. I just might as well get some mileage out of the Les Miles nonsense.
I'm waiting for him to come up with his grandmother's name, but that's
it's in his final thought. It'll be in his final thoughts. Don't worry.
Okay. Bill, it says athletes can now actually renege on their national letter of intent under certain circumstances, i.e., as we talked about before, when a head coach leaves. Bill, do you think that they finally got it right?
Well, I mean, getting it right is another fascinating term to use. Recruitment has been filthy for as long as I can remember, and I'm sure far beyond that. I mean, there's people who were playing in the 50s and 60s who have stories about, funny stuff that was going on. And there's stories literally going back to the late 1800s about paper. Now, obviously, there were fewer rules. It was just sort of violating a gentleman's agreement in those days. They didn't have very many rules about what you could and couldn't do. But people just sort of assumed you wouldn't do certain things. So it was just poor form in those days and not so much against the rules. But when you're talking about 15 and 16-year-olds, and sometimes younger, which is really silly, but even 15 and 16-year-olds say, hey, make this super important commitment that'll impact the rest of your life. We rarely encourage 15 and 16-year-olds to make super important commitments that'll impact the rest of their lives. And we should not expect for 15 and 16-year-olds to make these things and then say, this is it. I'm sticking to it till I die. We should expect that. I mean, think about yourself at 15 and 16 and how many times you professed undying love to someone, right? Only because to sometimes days later see someone who you realize you loved more for whatever reason, right? So I am not at all a person that is a proponent of we got to rope these kids down and, just if you say it and you signed a piece of paper and you're 16 years old, you got to stick with it and go, whatever, no matter what happens. If the coach leaves, suck it up. If they go on probation, suck it up. I mean, I always felt like, have you sat down and taken a class? Okay, now you're locked in, right? When you showed up to class and you take a class, then you're locked in. I'm one of those people that sort of, I don't care if it's anarchy. I don't care. Let me rephrase that. But I'm going to err on the side of the kid, the young person, being able to change their mind up until it literally is impossible for them to change their mind. I feel like if you sat down in class, you take a class, boom, okay, that's it. At least for this season, no more going anyplace. End of the year, we'll open it back up. I really do. I have a lot of friends in coaching, and they hate a lot of the things that are going on. And, I've been a graduate assistant, which is not the same. But I've seen sort of how the sausage is made a little bit from my time at Illinois back. And, of course, there was a controversy when we got Jeff George, right? That was a big deal because there was, once again, no rule against players transferring in conference, but it was sort of frowned upon, for like, and John Malkovich, who came in from the NFL, was like, I don't care. Give me Jeff George, and so there was a little bit of like shunning, sort of. I mean, the other coaches around the Big Ten at the time kind of looked at us, and you were like, oh, you took somebody from just up the road a piece. He's like, yeah, he's the best quarterback maybe in all of college football. We're taking it. I mean, Coach Malkovich didn't care about the niceties, didn't care about the traditions of the Big Ten and stuff like that. He's here to win football games. So when someone says, oh, we're destroying college football again, right? Here's the things that this is in my lifetime that were supposed to destroy college football. Football contracts, right? That was supposed to. The BCS at one point was to destroy college football. Integration at one point was supposed to destroy college football. Female referees and officials. Remember that? People losing their minds over that absolute nothing burger. Let me see. What else was supposed to destroy college football? Oh, instant replay. Some people thought that was going to destroy college football. And then moving away from the BCS and putting in the playoffs. Remember that was supposed to destroy college football? So every time I hear something supposed to destroy college football, I say to myself, oh, okay. So this is this year's thing that destroys college football. No, it doesn't bother me at all.
Demetrius, what's your thoughts on NILs?
I think that hypocrisy is the word that strikes. Like, at some point, the box got delivered. You knew it was from Pandora, and you decided to open it anyway. And you're like, wait a minute, NIL. Wait a minute, transfer portal. The box is open. I'm all team chaos. I love it. This gives Michigan State a chance to be relevant every now and then. I love this, right? So I'm team chaos. None of this bothers me. None of this. We used to see kids flipping all the time. Now it's easier and we have more accessibility. I don't care. If you're good, Bama will never struggle. We can change all the rules we want. We can change the environment as much as we want. Bama will never struggle. Texas will probably never struggle. Even Ohio State and the jackasses up the road from me, they will never struggle, right? That's fine, because that's what it is. So you can keep doing. I love it though. I love the chaos. I am all about chaos, so it doesn't bother me one bit. When you decided to start giving money to 16 and 17-year-old kids, it was a wrap. You opened the box. You knew who sent it. Don't get what are you getting mad for now? Yeah, I have no issue with any of it. The NCAA as a metaphorical, massive air quotes, governmental body, because they are the worst ever, right? Have never gotten anything right. So I'm not shocked, and it doesn't bother me. I love it.
Reggie, your thoughts on NIL?
As long as coaches have been able to go and sit in a family's living room and say that they're going to be there forever and then be out of there as soon as the best contract got there for them, I've applauded other people being able to do the same thing.
Yeah. Yep. That's real talk.
Don, did you have to sign the NIL?
No.
He's got a sweet picture of him in his UT uniform, though. Right up there on that shelf behind him, holding that football. It's nice. It's nice.
No. There's no NIL when I was around. No perks. The only perks I guess you get would be the groupies hanging at your dining hall when you came out after dinner.
They didn't slide you a little money under the table, a little bag of money on the. Oh wow.
That was a walk on.
Oh okay, all right. Nice.
No, but and my friends who were I know people who were NFL. They UT was very very clean in those days. That's why UT didn't do too well, because SMU was dishing out cars and TCU was dishing out stuff. A&M was. Texas had a very arrogant attitude. They're like, we're Texas, we don't have to do that. And so Texas never got involved in any kind of recruiting violations, because everyone else was doing it, and we're like, well, eventually we'll catch up. I mean, Oklahoma was doing it. I mean, Oklahoma, very switcher, they were the kings of it. But Texas took the arrogant attitude that, well, we're Texas, we don't have to pay anyone. Well, then we had a 4-7 year and 5-6, so that kind of bit us in the ass back in those days. But I have to admit I was a huge opponent of NIL. I didn't like it. I don't like the idea of guys getting paid. And then it occurred to me that Texas is benefiting from NIL. If you look at Texas recruiting, Texas is flipping players. They're not getting players flipped. And so, and I do contribute to a fund for the NIL for UT. So it's part of kind of, I guess, a bunch of people put in money collectively and offer deals. So
don't try to make it sound clean. You a booster, man. you a dirty booster, dog.
I'm part of a group of enthusiasts who just
individuals. We donate to a fund.
Well, no, it's legal.
Oh, I didn't say it wasn't illegal. I'm just you trying to make it sound all magnanimous. You T-Boone Pickens. We know who you are.
Wow, Pickens.
No, but I actually know a few people over at Alamo Heights who are like putting in like hundreds of thousands. So my little 300 a year is very minuscule. It helps.
Yeah.
Don, can Kansas State and UCF make a title run this year?
I don't see it. No, wait. Well, let's go back. Are you talking about a conference title or national title?
Yeah. That's
Conference title.
Oh, conference title.
Oh.
Yeah, lower bar for sure.
No.
Much lower.
No, Kansas State will always be tough, but they're not going to be. No one's going to be claiming them as a conference champion this year.
Well, they're in the Big 12 still, right?
Yeah,
They won the Big 12 last year, didn't they?
Yeah.
Oh, they're returning, I think, 12 or 13 starters. So maybe, but who cares? It's the Big 12. I mean, I understand the question. I don't know the value of the question.
Let me just say this: the Big 12 last year was an anomaly for a season. Kansas State, I mean, TCU got to national championship game, right? And they weren't even the conference champion.
Yep, right.
Texas beat Kansas State.
Yep.
TCU beat Texas, and so as far as dark horse candidates in the Big 12, it always goes with Oklahoma State because Gundy always has his players. He finds them under the woodwork. I mean, he had a hell of a running back a few years ago from Canada. So I think his name is Chubbard. I think
Chuba Hubbard.
Yes.
Yeah.
Canadian. So no, I don't see those two teams, being conference champion. They might play a spoiler. They might knock off Oklahoma or even Texas, but when it comes right down to it, they're not going to be.
Gonna be tough.
Don,
That's
more like
BYU. BYU is in the Big 12 now.
no.
They scared the hell out of me because Texas has a terrible record against BYU in recent history.
Don, more likely to miss the college football playoffs, Alabama or Ohio State?
Well, let's just be honest. Both teams will probably be in the championship, but I would say Ohio State is. If you give me those two teams, I'm going to say Ohio State. Alabama is always going to be there.
Reggie.
Really?
Are you asking me that same question?
You're not. No, ask Reggie.
As I'm wearing my Alabama.
I know.
As I roll
He's
back
literally
my
got
Alabama
roll tide on his arms.
I'm
roll
wearing.
tide.
Yeah, absolutely. And this is my last subject. I actually stayed on just for this subject, just so I could say that Alabama was going to be there. I was hoping that Don picked the right answer there. I'm very happy now. The show has ended. This has been a great night. Yeah, absolutely. We're going to be there.
He's going out
We're
on
going to be there.
Alabama.
Yeah. I appreciate that, guys.
Yeah. I mean, I'll get my 2 cents in before he leaves. So the scenario, the only one I can think of is, okay, you got what? An undefeated Georgia, maybe an undefeated Clemson or something, right? Maybe the A-holes up the road go undefeated. So it's between those two, right? Let's say a 2-loss Bama and a 1-loss Ohio State. I'm taking Bama. 1-loss Bama, 1-loss Ohio State. I'm taking Bama. 1 loss Bama, 1 loss Ohio State, undefeated non-power 5. I'm taking Alabama, right? I can't figure out the scenario. 2 loss Alabama, I'm taking over a non-power 5. I'm sorry, I just will put TCU and Alabama on the field together. Some undefeated TCU or undefeated UCF or undefeated anybody, not in a power 5. So now, if you're telling me it's 1 loss Alabama versus undefeated Ohio State and a 1 loss a-holes up the road, well, I'm taking Alabama anyway because I don't want those jerks to get in. So, yeah, I can't figure out the scenario where I don't think if Bama gets 3 losses, then I need you to tell me how the hell Alabama lost 3 games. 2 loss Alabama is like 1 loss everybody else. 1 loss Alabama is undefeated everybody else. I don't see it. They've earned that. I'm not even blowing smoke to Reggie. They have earned
that's how
that.
we feel down here.
Right.
Man.
They've earned that.
The choir over here, man.
The conference says so. Their schedule says so. Their history says so.
Bill?
So you're asking who's going to be there in the Final Four?
Who's likely to miss the playoff? Alabama
Who's
or
likely
Ohio
to
State?
miss?
Most likely to miss
Yeah.
the playoffs.
Huh.
Between those
Okay.
2.
Okay, between Alabama and
Ohio State.
Ohio State.
Ohio State. Oh. I mean, Ohio State has the easier path. Huh. That is a toughie. I'm trying to think of who. I mean, obviously, there's one school that's been in Ohio State's way recently.
Right.
But I don't think Ohio State's going to miss it. Huh. So Alabama has to negotiate. I mean, they don't have to win their championship game, obviously, because we've seen SEC schools not even make it to the championship game and still make it.
Yep. Great Jama, keeping Reggie up.
I'm going to say I think Alabama is more likely. I don't think either of them do, but I think Alabama's the more likely of the
Sit
two.
your ass right there, Reggie, and listen to this.
But I think both of them will make it.
I agree. I actually agree with Bill. I think they're both going to make it, by the way, because I think Ohio State
me too.
BCA. Yeah. So.
All right, well, Reggie, you want to give us your final thoughts for the night, man?
Well, guys, we get to see Wimby watch here, Summer League, July 7th, for all those tuning in, and hopefully we get a chance to see what all the fuss is about here a little bit, you know, in a small dose here. I always appreciate you guys having me on. Check me out at justtestats.com, and appreciate you being here, guys. As usual.
Reggie, good to see you, man.
All right, see you later, guys.
All right,
guys.
Good night.
Well,
San Antonio is all a buzz about Wimby, by the way. I got a bunch of that the last 3 days.
So let's get to our NFL topics tonight. Some of them are kind of interesting, some of them are a little fun. Your stats, man, Reggie. Demetrius. I'm gonna start with you first here. Is the NFL gambling policy protecting the integrity or the perception of the league?
It's protecting neither. Maybe that was the intent, but it's just not working. Here's the deal. Smart fans, the 4 dudes on this call, we all get it. They partnered with gambling sites. Revenue stream is a big deal. The Shield's about making money. We also understand that people gamble. Right. And they know that, right? So they're placating those people. I don't ever worry about competitive integrity. I can't possibly worry about it. I haven't seen anything, but they have to present the idea that we don't want players taking money to compromise games. When that kind of stuff happened, Pete Rose back in baseball, even Alex Karras and guys back in the day, they made, relatively speaking, peanuts. There is not an NFL player, and I will get into the stupidity of how I believe they own some of this because I think they rolled it out horribly, including my very own Detroit Lions. I don't know how they're informing these guys. Too many guys don't understand the rules for the implementation to have gone well. The implementation was executed horribly because too many people are violating the rule and then saying, wait, I didn't understand. So I think they need to take some ownership of it. But they have sponsors like Disney and others that they have to answer to. And they have to give gamblers because that money comes in those games, at least the perception of there isn't a player out there who's going to take a bribe and throw a game. First of all, the NFL is not equipped for that. Short of a quarterback, I'm not sure there's a player on the field who on his own could throw a game. Now, a coach, maybe, but they make too much money. What are you going to pay Patrick Mahomes to throw a football game? How much do you got to pay Josh Allen to throw a game? You know what they go through with how hard they work to get here? And somebody's going to offer them what? $50,000 to throw a game? Man, get out of here. I spent that last week on dry cleaning. So it's really just it's kind of a hypocritical sort of, hey, we really care about the integrity of our game, but we want to make sure y'all bet. We got to make sure y'all putting y'all bets down, right? So it's just smart fans like us are never fooled. We will never fall for the banana in the tailpipe. We will not. But they can keep trying. It's funny to watch. Watch Raj and the guys squirm around all this stuff. But they got in bed with gambling at some point. They let a team move to Vegas. Look, you're all in. Just, guys, bet on games if you want. Don't bet on our games. And that's it. You shouldn't suspend anybody for betting on college or baseball or anything else. If you bet on an NFL game, you're out for life. It's that simple. That's the rule. Just announce it on TV. We don't need to do a symposium or any of that other bullshit. If we catch you betting on the NFL game, you're out of the league forever, no exceptions. You can bet on anything else you want. Don't care, because it doesn't compromise our game. So, I don't know. Nonsense. This is my shorter answer.
Don, what's your thoughts?
Well, I agree totally, Demetrius. I mean, integrity is everything when you're playing in any sport. And I think that the NFL should have that rule. You know, if you're caught gambling on your game or anyone else's game in the league, you're gone. You're gone.
Yep.
And you can bet on tiddlywinks, but not your sport.
Cornhole finals.
There you go.
There you go. There you go. There you go.
Rock, paper, scissors.
Exactly.
Bill.
Well, there's not a lot of meat left on this.
Sorry,
but,
Bill. I owe you an apology, man. Sorry.
But I'm going to go back to the various scandals that we've had, going back to Alex Karras and Paul Hornung in 58, whatever year it was. And I remember one of the reasons I believe that the perception of Alex Karras and the perception of Paul Hornung were so different. Well, one, of course, is the Golden Boy tailback, who had won a Heisman Trophy. The other was, of course, a defensive lineman. But the other reason I think there was so much difference in the way that they were seen is Paul Hornung, said all the right things, and you could tell he was raised Catholic. A lot of sort of throwing himself at the mercy of the whatever, and the act of contrition. And from Karras, who I guess also was raised Catholic but Eastern Orthodox, sort of said, I think I bet a total of $250 on all of these things all put together. I don't think that's going to bring down the NFL. And this is when the NFL was, not nearly as established or as big as it is now, but he sort of scoffed at the idea that this was a big deal. But he sat, for a whole season and went back, playing when that season was over. I don't know if it did anything. I mean, other than set an example, but you are talking about insanely competitive young men with a lot of disposable income, right?
Yep.
Right. So that is a combination that leads to all kinds of things. And when you add to it that you can't watch any sporting event, doesn't have to be a football game, without somebody mentioning DraftKings or
FanDuel,
or right, name one, right? Barstool has its own app and own sports book now. I mean, you can't put the toothpaste back in the tube.
Nope.
Right? I mean, there comes a point where you can't restore your virginity, right? There comes a point where you have made a decision, and that decision is not, you can't revoke it. It's an irrevocable decision. You have made that decision. I So, yes, you can punish players if they try to influence the outcome. In fact, you should. You should ban them to try to influence the outcome of a game.
Yep.
You should. And I agree, gambling on NFL games is strictly verboten. But if you're also going to say that you have an official gambling site, an official gambling app, an official casino, official whatever, your official handicapper of the NFL or whatever. I mean, what do you think's going to happen?
Yeah, use the word partner. That's your
right. So we put these foxes in our hen house, and guess what they did?
Exactly. It's shocking.
Shocking.
Don, I think I want you to answer this first because things that just make you go, we had the Pats cornerback, Jack Jones. He pleads not guilty to 9 gun charges after being found with 2 loaded Glock 9mm in his carry-on luggage the 16th of June. Jones's lawyer said he was almost fired due to the social media response to his arrest, but she also added her gratitude that the Pats leadership wasn't swayed by this.
Yeah.
Don, 9 gun charges in the airport, in your carry-on luggage, but I didn't know it was there. I didn't mean to take it on. I had no intentions of taking it on the plane, Don. It was just,
So what you do when you travel by air with a gun, unload it, put it in your check-in, and claim it. Say, hey, I got a gun in there, and as long as you don't have a criminal record, you can have it checked in. You just don't carry it on. So be smart. Know the laws of your gun laws. Simple as that. I'm a gun owner. I have never, ever, 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 ever taken my gun or guns on a carry-on. That's crazy. Don't do that. And don't you don't. That's just stupid. So I'm thinking he's a victim of his own stupidity. I don't know how malicious it is. I don't know the guy, but to me, people who do that seem to have this attitude that they're untouchable, they're above the law, and that's just the way our society works. Well, it's not supposed to work that way anyway. So I'm sure that the NFL will probably come down with some kind of sanction. I'm not sure what it's going to be, but who knows?
What's your thoughts here, Demetrius? First the the visit to the brothel by Mr. Kraft. Now we got 9 gun charges against and they said he was almost fired. I mean,
Right.
What does it take? 3 Glocks, 3 loaded Glocks? A sawed-off shotgun. What does it take, Demetrius?
I don't. So this has a lot of layers, and I'm gonna get a little bit serious on this topic because I'm offended by his lawyer. Right. I'm gonna. Don covered the most important piece. You can break a rule and get reprimanded for breaking. Sometimes it's okay to deal with somebody for just being an idiot, for just being stupid. Right. I travel a lot. Y'all know this. I'm literally in Dallas right now. I have gone through the airport many, many times. Right. I don't think it just forget that part. His lawyer comes out, has a press conference, start talking about social media is painting him as a thug because he's a young black man. No, lady, he's getting painted as a thug because he's got 9 gun charges against him. Do not insult what actual young black men have gone through in their lives that wasn't warranted because your idiot client is taking guns through the airport. I was horribly offended by his lawyer and how she chose to try and deflect this. Since I already used banana in the tailpipe tonight, I'm going to go with the okie doke. She tried to okie doke her. Oh, social media is not being fair to my client because he's a young black man and he didn't do. He's an idiot. The fact that he's black and young has nothing to do with it. He tried to take 2 guns through Logan Airport. I'm going to say Logan is one of the top 10 largest airports in this country, if not top 5. Maybe you can get through the Kalamazoo airport with your 2 guns. Maybe. Probably not. I wouldn't try it. But you tried to take 2 guns through Logan Airport. So one of 2 things. You didn't give a damn about the law and you thought you were above it. That makes you a bad guy and you deserve everything you get. Or 2, you're an idiot and you deserve everything you get. Either way has nothing to do with him being young and black or social media painting him as a thug. That is bullshit. And his lawyer, I don't know who she is. I know nothing else about her. That her performance outside the courthouse disgusted me. I don't know if the kid's not smart. I'm the kid. I'm sorry. He was a kid to me. I don't know if the young man it slipped his mind, because there's a scenario where he just forgot they were there. And that's what she should have came out and said. But he's got 9 charges, so he has a habit of doing dumb things regarding firearms. So don't try and tell me it just slipped his mind. I think your guy's a moron or he's entitled. Maybe a combination of the 2. But none of this is about him being black or young or him being oppressed or targeted or profiled. That shit's real. It actually happens to people. Your dude's just an idiot. So I hope they do. I don't care what they're doing, really. I hope his lawyer gets sanctioned. That's what I want. Because that okie doke really pissed me off.
Bill.
So, in addition to 2 counts of possession of a concealed weapon in a secure area of an airport, possession of ammunition without a firearm identification card, unlawful possession of a firearm, carrying a loaded firearm, and possession of a large capacity feeding device. For those who are big fans of speed loading and big fans of extended clips, he apparently is a fan of both. It's not a great situation there. And Rosemary Scapaccio, who is the person that has offended my good friend Demetrius Verges, is attempting to Johnny Cochranize the situation.
Yep.
And that tends to work only if you're Johnny Cochran, is what I would say.
Historically, yeah.
Because others have tried it, but it seems not to work. Yeah. I guess it helps if you are, first of all, 1, the sort of originator of Johnny Cochranization, and 2, if you have his level of talent and ability.
Exactly.
He has neither. So it did not go as well for her. I don't necessarily want her sanctioned. I would like somebody to talk to her. That's what I would like. Someone to have a conversation. Where's Dr. Harry Edwards when we need him?
Oh, I know, right?
But my issues really are this, because here's the tremendous irony that not long ago, speaking of social media, Jack Jones opined about John Morant's situation, of all things.
Of course.
Because social media never forgets. There's a site called Freezing Cold Takes. And if you are a fan of irony, Freezing Cold Takes should be bookmarked, and maybe you should start your day with it. But he obviously showed up and was featured on Freezing Cold Takes because he had some things to say about John Morant just literally weeks ago. I don't know if he's forgetful. I don't know if he thinks he's entitled or untouchable. What I do know is he really likes guns, and he likes, even beyond just liking his guns, he is attached to having them loaded and traveling them with, also, because that's not enough, having a large capacity feeding device, which suggests that he's needing to dump a lot of rounds real fast. Now, I'm not a big fan of you advertising to the world that you not only will be looking to fire your weapon, but fire it a lot and then speed load and then fire it a lot more. The problem I've had with America, it's sort of like when I sometimes talk about, man, I really love Jesus Christ, but sometimes these Christians, like you don't join the 2nd and 75th Army Airborne if you don't have a certain affinity for firearms. But my God, do I get tired of firearm owners sometimes. No offense to you, Don, obviously. Because you are responsible,
exactly,
intelligent, and most of all, sane gun owner. And those things matter to me in every walk of life.
It helps. Yeah.
Right? I mean, I don't care if you're operating a car or a Cuisinart blender. You should always be responsible, safe, and sane. But when you're talking about firearms, especially when you're a young black man, right? It doesn't, like, the punishment or whatever isn't because of that. But he should be cognizant of that, right? if nobody else should be thinking, I'm a young black man, I've got 2 loaded weapons, I probably should do something different about this, he should know that, right? He should know that. I'm frustrated. I mean, the lawyer's doing what she's trying to do. She's trying to Johnny Cochranize poorly. But my real frustration was Jackson Zechariah Jones, where my frustration is mostly pointed, because Mr. Jackson Zechariah Jones should know better. If you travel a lot, and last I checked, NFL players do travel a great deal, you've seen things, postings, short video clips. There's a whole NFL, what do you call it when you come to the league? Part of the rookie symposium. They pop out. It's all been covered multiple times. So I don't care if you're forgetful. Put a sticky note on your bag when it comes to that, right? I don't care what you do.
Leave the high mag.
I mean, it seems kind of foolish to me when Brittany Griner got caught with a half gram of
resin or whatever it was.
Yeah, you know, and you're gonna go through the airport with 2 loaded Glocks. But hey, maybe it's
unreal.
It's just me. Bill, does the Jags running back Fred Taylor belong in the Hall of Fame? Former players say yes, but the voters are not sure.
All day. I know what I'm about to hear, I've been waiting for it.
This is a tough one. Here's the problem. Generally, I'm of the opinion, were you in the top 5 for a decade or close to a decade? And I'm actually part of a whole panel called Not in the Hall of Fame. It has a whole website called @Not in the Hall of Fame. So if you're into it, check it out. There's a whole list of players that we debate about should they or should they not be in the Hall of Fame. Frankly, Tiki Barber, in my mind, has a better case, and Jamal Lewis has a better case. He's about 4th or 5th. Heck, Warwick Dunn is a better case. So there are running backs more deserving in my mind. I get why people want to put him in. To me, he just misses. He comes very, very close, but to me, he's
tell me where he goes, Bill. Tell me the place he deserves to be.
He is first ballot Hall of really damn good.
There we go.
He really is. First ballot.
Hall of really good. I love it.
First ballot. But the Hall of Fame, I'm not, I have friends who are like putting everybody in, right? My friend, shout out to my friend, Vinny Los Benuso. He's an all in the hall guy, right? He's putting everybody in practice. That's never. He's very open. And then I've got people on the other end of the spectrum who want to take people out. Like they want to have a small hall. I'm a little bit in between. There's people who are in who I'd be like, I'd be okay with him not being in, but I'm not going to throw a fit over it. And there's people that I really believe should be in who are not in. It drives me nuts that they're not in. He's so close. But the answer is just no.
What's your thoughts, Demetrius?
I am a small hall guy. I am and my favorite all-time player is in the Hall of Very Good. Former Lions receiver Herman Moore. I jokingly say I think he should be there. That's because he's my favorite player ever. And by the way, he's an incredible dude. Smart, polite, just every level. Herman Moore is great. Herman Moore's not a Hall of Famer. I'm okay with that. He's in the Lions' Pride of Honor. That's where he belongs. And that's why teams have those. And he's probably second to MJD, if not first, in most of their categories. Probably first, right? But there's the one thing that gets me with him is I think I read there's 17 guys. He's 17th on the all-time rushing list, and every non-active guy above him is in the Hall of Fame. So that makes it tough. But I believe he is a Hall of Very Good guy. I think it should be a small hall. I think you diminish Jim Brown, you diminish Gale Sayers, you diminish Barry Sanders. No disrespect meant by this when you put Fred Taylor in the Hall of Fame. Now, the NFL has opened that can of worms too late. Warwick should be in there. I think Jamal Lewis is probably going to get in. All these guys will eventually get there because they opened that can of worms a long time ago. I'm a small hall guy, and teams should have these Ring of Honor, Pride, like the Lions Pride thing. And they should have that for those guys. And that's where guys like Herman Moore deserve to be. That's where a guy like Fred Taylor deserves to be. In the Jacksonville retired number, whatever you want to call it, cat world, or whatever they call it. He deserves to be there. I wouldn't put him in the Hall of Fame, but I think they eventually will.
Don.
Yeah, so Fred Taylor, he was a very, 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 very good player on a very, very, very average franchise. So when you mention the great running backs, people don't say, well, we got Fred Taylor. But he was good. I mean, not taking anything away from him. So
right.
I'm kind of unsettled. I think he's kind of on the verge of it. He's what we would call a bubble player.
Yep.
But I remember, watching him and so every time he carried the ball, he got about 5 yards of carry. I think he was up there in the average, but they would lose, and so I don't know. I guess when it's said and done, I would say no to the Hall of Fame. Yeah. If someone put a gun in my head, so you got to make a decision, I'd say no. But if you were to be put into the Hall of Fame, I wouldn't lose sleep over it. I'd say, well, good job. Good for you.
I think Don just did a very cool thing that I missed, and I love it. When's the last time, Bill, you were in a conversation with somebody about great running backs, and they said you forgot Fred Taylor? Right. That has happened exactly 0 times in my life. That should kind of be the standard. If we get into a 5-minute conversation here and we all start ripping off names and nobody says, oh, wait, you forgot Fred Taylor, that's your answer. Because you're going to hear, wait, you didn't mention Gale Sayers. You didn't mention, I would say, hey, what about Earl Campbell? I didn't like the Cowboys, but I'd say, you got to talk about him. I would never in a million years say you forgot Fred Taylor. And I think that should be the litmus test.
Yeah, I mean, he and Corey Dillon overlapped almost entirely. I think there's 1 year difference in when they entered the league. And I think you can make even a slightly more robust argument for Corey Dillon. It's close. I mean, and he's another guy that just misses in my mind as well. But I mean, he did more he was usually on teams that were even less until he got to New England. That were even less good, less built.
Strapped the Bengals on his back.
Right. At times he very much dragged that team forward. Yeah. So it's so hard with running backs, right? Because some guys, and this is why some people are even anti-Frank Gore. I don't see how you keep Frank Gore out, but there's people who want to try to keep Frank Gore out, despite the fact that he's way up.
Frank Gore's legit. Yeah.
Right. The inconvenient truth, right? And it's ended up being sort of a funny thing that's true. I mean, there's people who don't like Frank Gore. They don't like him for the Hall of Fame, but there's no way to keep him out. Yeah. The numbers are just overwhelming. He was so good for so long. And I get it. Once again, that whole, was he ever top 4, top 5? No. At no point could you say this guy was top 4, top 5. Corey Dillon, there was a couple of years in the late 90s when I think he might have been top 4, top 5. Yeah. But, I mean, I like Frank Taylor as a person. He was fun to watch. At one point, Jim Brown said he was his favorite running back in the league at that point, which I think helped him a little bit when Jim Brown said, when James Nathaniel Brown, the late great, says, you're my current favorite running back in the league, whatever year it was, he said that, 2002 or 2001 or something. That helped, here getting that sort of seal of approval. But there's just so many great running backs, first of all, who aren't in. And I just can't see putting him in over some of these other guys.
Yeah. And I think a bunch of them will get in because the current way the league uses running backs, they're not going to be feeding us many candidates in the next 20 years. Yeah. So some of those guys are going to get in because the league right now doesn't give a damn about the running back position. Right. And there's going to be a sparse number of guys over the next 20 years that are in Fred Taylor's league numbers-wise. Numbers-wise, even a guy like Jonathan Taylor, who has all the skill to be, they're going to stop using him at some point, and that's the way it's going to work.
Yeah,
committee thing.
We'll definitely see. Don, the Jets are bracing for a hard knocks assignment. Will Rodgers and the Jets be must-see TV this season?
Oh, hell yeah!
And are the Jets putting too much pressure on ayahuasca?
Did we lose Don in the middle of that? I'll jump in. I'm just going to talk about the ayahuasca part. Look, the 4-letter loves everything New York and everything Aaron Rodgers. So ESPN is going to make sure you get every morning on Get Up with the host and all this. You're gonna get plenty of Jets all summer and all fall. If they do Hard Knocks, it will be reluctant because their owner wants no part of it. Because I loved when the Lions did it last year, but the spotlight on the Detroit Lions from Detroit versus New York, I'll let Don jump back in. They're gonna do it because they can't help themselves.
I got so excited I hit the exit screen. Oh shit! So Hard Knocks with the Jets would be awesome. Can you just imagine having Aaron Rodgers dropping some mushrooms and eating edibles and going all psychedelic philosophical shit?
Oh, you're gonna get all that.
I'm watching. I would just think that'd be. It plus, it's gonna be one of those weird seasons for them. They might kind of like the Cardinals were last year. You just really know which one to get. So I would love to see how the team responds to the presence of Aaron Rodgers in the locker room and how he responds to them. Yeah.
Bill, what's your thoughts?
Popping the popcorn.
Yeah. First of all, I'm thinking about different ways I could have this essentially injected into my body system. I'm fascinated by the thought of it, and I've been all over the map on Aaron Charles Rodgers, right? I mean, he was another of those guys with sort of that cool, plucky story initially, a guy that was a 1 or a 2-star recruit at most, comes out of high school at 5'11" and 155 pounds, grows a couple inches while he's at Butte Junior College, still isn't exactly the hottest property, despite the fact he put up great numbers in junior college. Wisely decides to go play for Jeff Tedford at Cal, gets developed there, puts up some insane numbers while he's there, and turns himself into what is supposed to be hands down the number one player off the board, and then isn't the number one player off the board, falls, goes 24 picks later than most people thought he would have gone, and then has to sit behind Brett Favre, who initially kind of ices him out a little bit, and all these things, and he breaks his foot is during his rookie year, and there's people like, sort of writing him off. I mean, it's a cool story. And then he becomes this whole other person and divorces his family and, dates a bunch of Hollywood actresses and then develops this interest in Joe Rogan and psychedelics, perhaps not in that order, and decides to get inoculated via, I don't know, like ultraviolet radiation or, herbs or whatever the heck it was. Then he dates a Wiccan. I mean, if he didn't exist, you'd have to invent him, right? He is endlessly, intentionally a person that you just either want to see terrible things happen to or great things happen for, and sometimes both. Like, he manages to create this cognitive dissonance within the football world that there's few players I can think of. Because with Tim Tebow, it was a different kind of like stirring passions in people, right? Because a bunch of evangelicals, strongly identify with him because of his beliefs, and there are people who just got what I call Tebow fatigue. But it wasn't that they thought he was fascinating in terms of his personality. No offense to Timothy Dwight Tebow, but he was sort of a guy that you got a pretty good sense immediately exactly what he was. You didn't think, what more is there to him? Let's plumb his depths. That wasn't what we ever thought.
No.
With Aaron Charles Rodgers, there's twists, there's turns, there's compartments that have not yet been opened. So yes, I think everyone who cares even a little bit about football will be mainlining this event when it happens.
Don, the Cowgirls linebacker Micah Parsons says he intends to play at 255 this season. Don, what's your thoughts?
Yeah, explain that.
Well, my thoughts is I don't get hit by Micah Parsons at 250. Hey, to the average Joe, you say, well, 250, that's kind of hefty. But, if he's bringing that 250 with the 4.6 speed, and I've seen his weight room workouts. Dude's a beast. So if he can play it at that weight, more power to him. I have no qualms with that as long as it doesn't affect his performance on the field. I've seen him run down running backs already, so as long as it doesn't affect that ability, I say do it. Hey, play at 260. I don't give a shit. just play ball.
Bill, will Lamar return to MVP form under the new offensive coordinator? His ex-Ratbird offensive lineman, Orlando Brown Jr., said he was physically hindered by the play calling, but he won the MVP. How much hindered could he have been, Bill?
Well, first of all, he wasn't initially hindered. He was initially being helped. That's why they designed their offense the way it was, because while he was adapting and learning to work in the NFL, they took advantage of all the things that he had just purely physical. And I mean, 255 is 9 pounds heavier than he was at the combine. 9 pounds on a person who's 6'3" and an eighth is not a big effing deal. I can put on 9 pounds if you take me to the right crab shack or whatever. So I'm not worried about Michael Parsons putting on 9 pounds. But to the question you asked, it'll take a little period of adjustment. So I think that there'll be some good days and some bad days in year one in the Monken system. But I think eventually they will do some beautiful things, because Coach Monken, everyone's sort of talking about it, opening it up, and they will do some more things in terms of creating space in the passing game and attacking down the field. But he very much believes in the running game. For those that didn't watch Georgia, his brother is at Army. I mean, the Monken family understands running the football. So they will still be a run-heavy team. They'll still be, I think, in the top 6 or so in running attempts. But they'll be more innovative, more creative, and more aggressive in the passing game.
Demetrius, would the Eagles be as dangerous with Hurts running less? Brian Dawkins says that the team doesn't need to rely on Jalen's legs. Do you agree or disagree?
I agree 100%. First of all, I love Brian Dawkins, by the way. So anything, give me more Brian Dawkins all day, every day. But I think that this league still, as much as some people, and I'm just not one of them, want to believe, the league is revolutionized. It's about the running quarterback. It's not, and it never will be. The most effective thing, and this is not Jared Goff bias. Give me a quarterback who can pre-snap and post-snap read defensive schemes and disguises and throw the football from the pocket. You can have the dude who can now there are guys who are great at both. Patrick, dang it, Bill's gone. LeVar or Javon. Levon. Patrick Levon Mahomes is the exception, right? But there aren't many of those. He's a unicorn. I think Don and I talked about this yesterday. I like a quarterback. I got dudes who can run. In Detroit, I can give jet sweeps to Amon-Ra St. Brown. When Jameson Williams comes back, he can get jet sweeps. We got David Montgomery. We drafted Jahmyr Gibbs. I got a bunch of dudes that can run the football. I only have one guy, number 16, who can drop back in the pocket, read coverage, and throw the ball. And I'm going to preach how good Jared Goff is until you people recognize, right? I saw a quarterback list today. He wasn't in the top 10. I'm salty about that. So I did not say Jared Goff's better than Jalen Hurts. I did not say he's better than Lamar. I didn't say that. The question is, will they be more dangerous if he runs less? The answer is yes, if he gets better at throwing the ball from the pocket, because he will still have the occasional opportunity to beat you with his legs, extend plays with his legs, just create general havoc in coverage and planning on Wednesday afternoon because he's got those legs. But if he can have you thinking about his legs and he can drop back in the pocket and slice you up, they're a better football team without question.
Don, what's a successful season look like for Russell Wilson?
Well, I would say successful season for Russell Wilson is at the final game, he's still the starter.
Whoa, that's a low ass bar. That is a just still have a job, right? Oh
Well,
wow.
hey, he asked a question. So
He did. If I can be that dude now, because we're cribbing after dark. I should let Bill have this, but I'm not. A successful season for Russ is if Sierra's pregnant with another child. No, that was cheap. That was cheap. I think Sean Payton's going to help Russell Wilson. He's going to be fine. I think it should be measured in Broncos wins, not individual stats. The reality should be if they win 11 games, that's a success. Hell, if they win 10 games, that might be a success. The truth is, all jokes aside, because he's got the enormously, incredibly awesome wife. But all jokes aside, it's got to be measured in Broncos wins. Everything else is irrelevant. He could have a great statistical season if they win 7 games. It doesn't matter.
I just think the Broncos. I mean, I worry about his health because I'm not sold on that offensive line for the Broncos right now.
Yeah. Yep. That's fair.
So I'm thinking, he's not spring chicken anymore. I mean, he's not Aaron Rodgers' age, but I mean, he's getting up there where those little nicks and bangs on your body start taking a long time to heal.
So, like, if he's active on Sunday, it's a success. On week 17 Sunday, if he's active, that's a success.
Bill, how much pressure is on Deshaun Jackson and Kevin Stefanski to have a winning season? Or even
I'm going to assume you mean Deshaun Watson.
He does. Yeah.
Deshaun Watson, I'm sorry.
Okay. Because I was going to say, I mean, Deshaun Jackson, his only pressure is bothering his agent, I guess, about, hey,
get me a job,
any calls? But, yeah, there's a lot of pressure on both because Stefanski's whole thing was he's this play-action guru, right? And they've been very effective in the run game. The play-action is not quite, except for 1 year with Baker Mayfield, it's not quite been as deadly as people had assumed or predicted or hoped. Deshaun Watson has not forgotten how to play football. Just like Russell Carrington Wilson has forgotten how to play football. These people still know how to play football. Things have changed around them. Now, he certainly got rusty, and there's lots of ways I could work in about oil and whatever, but I won't. I'm going to leave that alone because I'm a better person.
Except you did it. Except you just did it.
But, oh, please forgive me. But the point is that I'm convinced that he hasn't forgotten. And I think he will, while he may not be back in MVP candidate form, he's 27 years of age. Yep. This is essentially supposed to be the next 5 years and actually his first name is actually Derek. Deshaun is his middle name. So he's actually Derek Watson. Deshaun's his middle name. But for Mr. Derek Deshaun Watson, this next 5 years are supposed to be the best 5 years of his career based on how quarterbacks' careers work. So I think this will be a bit of a bounce back. And I think the year after that, he may ball out, especially if they continue to add talent around him. And they better, because Kevin Stefanski, he's not on the hot seat, but his seat is simmering. And if people don't see improvement, there'll be some whispers, and the whispers will soon turn into talking, and the talking will turn into shouting. So, yes, they need to have a good season. Now, a good season could still mean 9 wins because they're playing a tough schedule. I looked at their schedule, like, oh, not a lot of easy W's for them on their schedule. So I think they will be about 8 or 9 win team. But yeah, Deshaun Watson will be about 60% towards the guy that was at one point a legitimate MVP candidate. And then I think next year he gets to 90-something% of that.
Is it out of line to say they're the 4th best team in that division?
It is not. It is not at all.
That's a reality. I love your team. That's not blowing smoke to you guys. I love what you guys do, and I think you guys got the best coach in the league. The Bengals are the Bengals. I'm sorry, they're good. Yeah. And as James would say, the Ratbirds are still there. I don't know if Cleveland isn't the worst team in that division. And they still might win 8 or 9 games. That's how good that division is.
Correct. It's ludicrously. I think 3 or 4 wins cover the whole. I mean, I think that just because how tough it'll be. I don't see anybody winning 13, 14 games and running away. I think 11 and 12, 12 games win the darn.
11 games wins that division, in my opinion.
I'm with you. Yeah.
Demetrius, what do you expect from Delvin Cook? Do you think he'll end up with the Dolphins, the Jets, or somewhere in the rest of the league?
I actually like Buffalo here. I don't know how he's making his decision, but if he sits down, set the brother thing. Well, I wouldn't set the brother thing aside. If I was a professional football player and I got a chance to go play with my brother, that'd probably be cool. But also, they're a damn good football team. They're a really good football team, and he would have a chance to compete in January, right? I don't particularly love the Dolphins, so I don't know. And the Jets is just going to be a circus anyway. Do you want all of that? Do you want all of that? And Breece Hall is a really good player. So when Breece Hall is right, I don't know that you. So what matters to you? Is it touches? Do you want to go somewhere where you're going to be a heavy contributor? You want to touch the football? I don't know that the Jets is your place. Initially, it might be your place. Once Breece Hall comes back, he's too dynamic. Breece Hall is going to be the centerpiece of that offense. In Miami, do you trust that quarterback? Now, there are people that just like him way more than me. Do you think Miami's a better team than Buffalo? I don't. I think the best team of the three I'm talking about is Buffalo. I think it gives you the best chance to go further in the playoffs. And I think the whole that you get to play with your little brother is just a little strawberry on top of that sundae. So my answer is Buffalo.
Okay. What do you think, Bill?
Well, you said Miami. You said
Jets
or
somebody else. Yeah.
Yeah. So somebody else is definitely my answer as well. I just can't really see the Jets happening. Plus, I have to look at the Jets' salary cap situation. They might have the room. I have to go back and check. But let's
talk about $6 million. I mean, come on.
You can make up $6 million in the NFL salary.
Right, you can find a way to do that. Yeah.
Squeeze that.
Yeah, I'm sure. I think most teams can find a way to carve out $6. Let me think of other teams that are a possibility. I could see him potentially landing. I mean, he could be sort of a difference maker if he landed somewhere in like the NFC South, because that's another situation where none of the teams are spaced. They're all kind of clumped together. And if you decide one of them is your favorite for whatever reason, few of those teams really have that bell cow running back. Rachaad White's a talented young guy in Tampa Bay.
Is Alvin Kamara going to be incarcerated by the time?
The Kamara situation is solved for X, but best case scenario is he misses a good amount of time.
Right. That's the best case.
That's the best case scenario.
Right.
So if you think the Saints have a shot to come out of there, I mean, that's an offense that I think would suit him. Who else could possibly make sense for him? Can I see anybody out west in either the NFC or the AFC?
Yeah.
I mean, the 49ers love running backs, but they have a lot of them already.
Right.
Elijah Mitchell, Christian McCaffrey. I mean,
they have a lot of running backs already.
Yeah, so a lot of it's about what is he looking for? Does he want touches? Right. Does he want a chance at a title? Does he want money? What's because there's only a few really good fits.
You mentioned the Bills. I mean, if he doesn't mind being in a bit of a timeshare with Isaiah Pacheco,
right,
he could go get a ring real quick with Kansas City if that's what he's after.
That's true.
Kansas City's been mentioned.
Yeah, that's actually a good call. If that's his priority,
I could see them doing that. I mean, the Chiefs are not. They're not scared to do stuff. I mean, that's the front office that does things. Why? Because they like winning. They like winning a lot.
Winning's cool. Yeah.
They really are enjoying the winning.
Yeah.
Don just said that his internet went down. Maybe we can get him back before it's over with. But okay, gentlemen, let's see. Final thoughts. Final question, Demetrius. Do do you think that the Colts have added enough for Jonathan Taylor to actually bounce back from that horrendous season he had last year?
No. Only because it takes time, not because they didn't try. I think they're better. No. So let me change that. He will have a better season, if that's the question. He will have a better season. Some of that will be schematic. Some of that will be talent upgrade. Some of that will be health. There's a bunch of variables to explain Jonathan Taylor's season last season. It's not just their offensive line sucks or they didn't use him right in the scheme. There are many, many variables. I think if he's healthier, they have upgraded some talent. And how do we define rebound? Because it's not just necessarily rushing yards with him. So my short answer is he'll have a better season due in part to talent upgrades, but other variables will also contribute to that.
What do you think, Bill?
Well, first of all, yes, he'll have a better season.
Right.
I think maybe dramatic. I think noticeably better. I think 400 yards rushing, 500, 600 yards from scrimmage improved, 3 or 4 more touchdowns improved, kind of noticeably better. What would really help him and may happen is if they get, of course, their very exciting, freakish young quarterback on the field, because what will happen, especially if they do decide to employ all of his talents, right? So we just had a discussion about how much do you let your quarterbacks run. And I think with rookie quarterbacks who weigh about 240 something pounds, you may run them more than other quarterbacks. So I'm interested to see how quickly Anthony Richardson becomes the guy. He may be the guy right out of the box.
Right.
But if he isn't, I promise you there's going to be an AR-15 package.
Yep.
You're not just going to ride out there with Gardner Minshew the whole season. I don't think they will. So my assumption is, as the season goes on, he'll see more and more action. And he's going to force defenses into a bit of a bind because he's a freak of nature. He is very large, very powerful, has an incredibly strong arm. And when you have a 244-pound quarterback who can really run, you run him. I mean, I don't know how else to put it. So some of those read options and some of those zones, some of those things that where it's sort of a token thing when your quarterback is Gardner Minshew, now it's not a token, right? Because at some point in the season, Anthony Richardson is going to bust a 72-yarder to the house on somebody. He's going to take a 72-yarder to the house on somebody. Also, since we're doing this, watch for the emergence of a young wide receiver named Michael Strahan on their roster. Pittman, Pierce, and McKenzie are sort of the top 3 guys, but watch for an emerging number 4 receiver from Charleston in West Virginia, Michael Strahan, who was a Division II championship level sprinter in both the 100 and 200 meters, despite the fact he's 6'5". You don't see 6'5" sprinters all too often that are not named Usain Bolt. So watch out for him to also emerge as, you can put now Alec Pierce, Michael Pittman Jr., and Michael Strahan. That means the shortest of your receivers is about 6'3", and they all can run. Wow. So you have a very strong arm young quarterback who forces defenses to not be able to play man, right? You got to play zone. Why? Because if you turn your back to Anthony Richardson, 88 out the gate. So yes, the offense as a whole will be better, and yes, it'll definitely benefit Jonathan Taylor.
Do you have that much faith in the wide receiving core and the possible young rookie quarterback, Demetrius?
With the Colts?
Yes.
Yes, I think what he said, Anthony Richardson changes how teams have their meetings on Wednesday. The defensive meeting of the opponent on Wednesday is different. And it is simply put less focus on Taylor, more focus on what Richardson could possibly do. That makes Jonathan Taylor better by definition. just by simple, they're paying less attention. And that'll happen. And I think if the Colts scheme it right, I used the term schematics twice when I was talking earlier, the schematics of how do you put him in the best position to succeed, a lot of that will be AR-15. It will be the disguise or the threat of Anthony Richardson will make the offensive line better. It will make Jonathan Taylor better. It'll make everybody better. That's why you take that guy at 4 or wherever they took him. Even if he's not ready, what Bill said, there will be packages, which means Wednesday in practice, you got to prepare for an Anthony Richardson package, and you're spending less time focusing on Jonathan Taylor. So what they can do as an offensive unit, Richardson's going to help everybody. That's the short answer. I don't know that the receiving core specifically helps Jonathan Taylor. Richardson helps everybody.
Right.
And that's a big part of his value. The minute he steps on the field, he helps everybody.
Well, Mr. Carroll, why don't you start tonight and give us your final thoughts?
So on this day in 1971, a man who was born Cassius Marcellus Clay, but later became Muhammad Ali, won a legal battle, probably one of the toughest battles of his entire life, when the U.S. Supreme Court 8-0 overturned his conviction for draft evasion and eventually allowed him to be restored to the ability to earn a living and box. Now, 3 of the would have been the best, in fact, a little over 3 of what would have been the best years of his career were gone. And they're never coming back. There's nothing you can do about that. You can't imagine what you would have seen, what fights you would have seen had he been able to fight through that time period. But as a man of conviction and as a man of his beliefs, because if he had submitted to the draft, they weren't going to, send him to the Mekong Delta, right? He wasn't going to be strapping a mortar to his back and, jumping out of a helicopter into a rice paddy. He was going to be, giving boxing clinics and sparring with, Army fighters and, giving talks to guys and things like that. I mean, he would have had a pretty easy route. He would have spent 11 months, I think is actually how it would have worked, if memory serves me, out there doing basically USO tours kind of thing, and would have been back fighting again in less than a year.
11 months, 24 days.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you. 11 months, 24 days. That's what it would have been. And he said to himself, I'm going to do the math on this. I'm going to say no. And he said, I am a minister in the Nation of Islam, and this, goes against my beliefs. And he made himself, first of all, persona non grata, beyond, the actual legal punishment. Who knows what it cost him in professional opportunities? Even for years after the conviction was overturned, it took a while for, sponsors and endorsers to warm back up to him. Now, eventually, he became a beloved figure again. But there were some years where America, we think about what America has said about people like Colin Kaepernick, and people of a certain age don't understand how intense the hatred that some people felt was towards Muhammad Ali. There were death threats. There were things that were done and said, not just to him, but to his family behind this, that I think people don't fully understand unless they're of a certain age. So I want us to never forget, not just did we lose 3 years of what would have been truly incredible boxing, but this man, lost his livelihood, lost his ability to support his family. But I think most importantly, he at no point backed down and made it very clear that even if he never fought again, he was not going to change, not going to move off of his convictions, his beliefs, and felt like if it cost him his career, that was a cost he was willing to pay.
Yep.
Demetrius, final thoughts.
Yeah, so got to piggyback on that. You guys know how I feel about that guy, right? Not guys I'm related to. He's number 1 on my list. And I've always told people who've asked me why. I said real courage, real bravery is when you have something to lose. When you're literally and this man was broke. He's borrowing money from Joe Frazier, and he was broke. He sacrificed. And I say to this day, and James, you might disagree, we can have a talk about it. 1967 Cassius Clay is the greatest fighter in the history of fighting. Nobody could touch 1967 Cassius Clay. I love Muhammad Ali. The second career that he had, phenomenal. And I happen to be doing a boxing final thought. I'm going to today, because today's the 26th birthday of a guy who I am all over, right? Right now, the featherweight, super feather, lightweight division is about to become the heavyweight division in 1972, 73, 74. The reason Ali's the greatest is because he fought other dudes that we could have considered the greatest, right? When in their prime. And it's not just Joe Frazier and George Foreman. It's Ernie Shavers. There were guys back then where you had this rotation of guys, and every third Saturday on ABC's Wide World of Sports, we got to see Ken Norton, and right, we got to see this. So right now, today is the 26th birthday of Shakur Stevenson, right? My guy. That's whose bandwagon I'm on now. I need Shakur Stevenson, Devin Haney tomorrow, right? After I get done with Bud Crawford and Earl Spence Jr., which I've been waiting for, right? Then I need Stevenson. Now, that's no disrespect to Vasily Lomachenko or Giovanni Davis. Those guys are the light. I think they're going to probably fight lightweight for a while. They might all end up junior welters at 140-ish. But 130 to 135 right now, if you ever liked boxing and you drifted away, maybe it's time to come back. 130 to 135, 130 to 140.
The heat is.
It's about to be popping for the next 8-10 years. You're going to see some really good fights. Garcia, Zapata, there's some guys in the pipeline, right? And I'm really excited. I might get Davis Stevenson first. I want Devin Haney and Stevenson to fight at 135, right? And I think Shakur may need a fight up there first because he's jumping. He's jumping a little bit. He hadn't been able to hold 130 for a minute though, so that's fine. He'll be fine at 135. I want that fight. And the only thing, July 29th is Bud Crawford and Errol Spence Jr. And if you've been away and you want to see a super fight, they're happening. They're happening at smaller divisions. The heavyweight is the only division, right? They are happening, and it's happening in the lightweight, junior welterweight division right now. It would be a good time to come back to boxing if you drifted off to USC or whatever, because this guy's a two-time champ, 20-0, 10 knockouts. I think Haney's 30-0. When it happens, it's going to be great. But Bud Crawford is the best pound-for-pound fighter in the world, in my opinion, and you get to see him on the 29th. So, double boxing, final thoughts. Got to make Mr. King happy. He cannot be unhappy about that, right? So, yeah, I'm saying. Yeah. Oh, really?
Oh.
I don't disagree with you. I don't know if it's 8. Errol Spence is. That's just a good fight. I'm scared to touch that one. I can't wait to watch it. That's going to be a great fight, though. But I think that boxing now is like people are sleeping on it. They're so into UFC. There are some good fighters, talented fighters, whether it's guys up where Crawford and those guys are. But I love where the lightweight division is right now. Light welterweight, junior welterweight, that 130, 135, 140 area. It's going to be good for a while because there's some really good fighters down there. Yep. So I encourage people to check it out.
Bud swells up the eye and takes him out of the knee.
All right. You might be right. Great show, fellas.
Hey, Jim,
I love
this is about the closest we've ever come to actually getting out of it.
We nailed the 2-hour show. We had 5 people at one point. That's good. That's good stuff.
Have a great night, guys.
Hey, fellas. Have a good one. All right.
All right, guys. Hey, I'll get back to you on that